Hey, I want to show you how to use JavaScript proxies to make the client-server communication a little bit smarter. We have one server implementation based on Express.js, just one file, straightforward. It has one public folder where we just serve static files for the client. We have a JSON parser, and we have just one request handler, which takes HTTP post requests on save username too. Yeah, we can save the username later here. For now, it's just returning a fake message and prints out the request body that comes in, and it runs the server on port 3000. The client served is pretty easy. It has just an index.html file, which loads the app.js, some client-side JavaScript, and some CSS. And the client side, it's just creating a form which can be sent. Let me show you that. So if I run npm start, it starts on port 3000, and this is how it looks like. So it's just one input field and a save button. And if I save the username, it just prints out the name and it makes an HTTP request. So this is what we want to do. So we have this little function here which says post message to say, okay, we want to send something to the server. Let's really do that. So there is a post message function from this HTTP, or it's called post data. So it's load that in. So post data from the HTTP module, and we need to use the import syntax. Let's give that a try. And now it should send the thing to the server. There it is. So this is the log from the server side on port 3000. It says Klaus. If I put in another name, it prints out on the server side. So that's the standard way, just making the HTTP request. So now let's do that a little bit smarter. How can we do this smarter? The first thing is we create a file that we call server proxy. So we want to have a proxy on the client side that allows us to call the server on. So I just create an object which I call server. That's the proxy object. So we say instance of proxy, which is an empty object. We don't care about the object. And it has a handler. That's the standard proxy stuff. And there's the option to put in a get handler on a target, actually, but we don't need the target. We just need the key. And what we do is we return an arrow function. And what this does is we have an object server. It's an instance of proxy. And it doesn't matter which key, which property we call on the server, it always just gets a function. And for that function, we just expect some data, any kind of data. And what do we do with that data is we make an HTTP request to the server. So we say post data. This is just our own send HTTP request to the server function, which we have here. So we just use this native fetch function from JavaScript and then make the post request with the data. Straightforward. We are using that here to say, okay, on the given key, so we splice in the key here, send the data to the server, and we wait for the response. So say await, so we need to do this, make this function async, and we will return the result. That's short. It's only 6 lines of code for a funny proxy function. So on the client side, here's this onSubmit function. So this is handling the submit event from this form, which you can see here. So if I click the button or if I press enter, it submits the form and currently it makes the HTTP request to the server. So now instead of doing this, we say server from the server proxy dot save username. And what we do is we pass the username as an object property. And we can await this and say, okay, console log, or just store it in a variable and then log that out. And let's give that a try. We don't need the post import anymore, so we'll move that. So let's give that a try. There we are. So it grabs the name and already got a response from the server, and let's check the server logs, and on the server it's the same. So that's already pretty nice. We don't need to write any kind of HTTP request thing. You always can just say server dot something and to call any function inside the server. That's already pretty nice, but let's get one step further. How can we do that on the server side to be smart? On the server side, we can do the same. Let's put in a file where we say API. So we have all our public routes here. And then we say module.export, and this is an object which contains all the request handlers. We always expect HTTP post requests, so we can just say save username. So we just name it the same way, and we do the same logic. Nothing special. We get a request first, which we don't need, or we need it actually. Request and response. That's it. Save username. We could do more. We can do any kinds of things. So we can have a log function here, and then we just say log the whatever we are doing here and return success, just for testing. And in our main file, what we're doing is we load that in. So we say API from the API module. And we say object.keys. So for all the functions inside this API thingy, we say for each of those, get a method name. We put in app.post, and then again splice in the app name, the method name. So method name, and then we use exactly the method. So we say API method name. So let's give that a try. Should still work. Boom! Client side works, server side works. That's amazing. Now let's one more try. Just change the function to not call the server name, server username. Just call this log function, and just send something else. Boom! I need to. Success true, and it logs out log username with something else. Amazing, huh? So that way you can just extend this API object here as much as you want. You can load in other things. So if you have some other API object, you can just put it in with other APIs here, and how much as you want. And immediately, if you write a function name, it's available in the front end by just saying server.log, server.save username, server.whatever you want to do. A very smart way on communicating from client to server. This time we use the HTTP requests method. You of course can also use WebSockets, for example, with Socket.io. Pretty smart. I hope that gives you some nice ideas. Have fun. See you later. Bye.